All right, guys. This is Ricardo Martinez. Wanted to welcome everybody again to another one of our coaching development webinar program series. Today, we're joined by Chris Gilmore and John Doyle, who will be hosting today's webinar. We're going to be focusing on strength and conditioning part of the game, which definitely has a significant influence on player development. And so I'm going to turn it over to John for an intro to Chris.
I'd like to say hello to everybody. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. It's my pleasure to introduce Chris Gilmore. Chris has been with us. Chris, how many years now?
I think we're about 12, Coach.
12 years. He's been a coach at Mustang. He's been a director at Mustang. He's now the director of our fitness for the girls side. Chris was a former player. He played in Hawaii, played in Holland. He's been a former coach at San Jose State. He's been a great asset to have in Mustang Youth Soccer, and we're very lucky to have him. And I'll let you take it away. Look forward to your presentation.
Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm going to just get into it right away. So bear with me while I share my screen. Okay. All right. See that, Ricardo? Okay, great. Just going to try to minimize so I don't have to look at myself and could see the screen. There we go.
And while Chris is getting that ready too, like I mentioned before, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat room or just feel free to jump in. We want to make this interactive for everybody. So just feel free. This is for you guys to gather as much information as possible and ask Chris all the questions you want. I'm sure I have a ton that I want to ask him as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Ricardo. So today's strength and conditioning webinar is Ricardo asked me to talk about and share with everybody today. We'll review the Mustang player profiles. We'll review some strength and conditioning activities to give you some ideas. I'll show a few video examples given our time. And then I've included also hydration and nutrition principles if we have time, but that we might move on to another webinar. So first off, I think it's really important that we start off with our Mustang player profiles for everybody to understand, get a perspective of what we're going through today. There are 4 pillars when we develop our players at Mustang: the technical side, the tactical side, the physical side, and the personality side. So that everybody's clear, today is strictly about the physical side of the game. Okay, we could spend hours talking about the other 3, could spend hours talking about this one, but I just want to make sure everybody is clear that this is all about the physical side. So this is mainly without the ball. Okay. So the strength and conditioning activities that we do here at Mustang, the challenge for this discussion for the time we have is that we have probably coaches that are coaching beginning players, U8, U9, U10. We probably have some coaches that are also coaching at the U18, U17, U16. So clearly what they do is different. However, what I've done is put together things that all the players can do, all ages, and where you take them and what you work on will be dependent on obviously their level and where they are and their ages. So today we'll talk about some soccer running techniques, soccer stretching techniques, the dynamic movement prep techniques, and some speed and strength coordination. Okay, what is very integral for everybody to understand is that all of these exercises today will make you stronger, faster, fitter, but most importantly, these are injury preventative exercises, and I'll explain why as we move through. So when we get into soccer specific running, this is considered the warm-up. So when you arrive to training and the kids are ready to go, we want to warm them up so that they are prepared for the demands of the game and they don't have injuries. So how you warm up is integral. What we want to do is put them through soccer specific movements. Okay, we don't want to start off with a sprint. It's a jog. And what's key is especially getting the players to buy in that how they move, that they're focused on their movements. It's very easy to go through the motions. So here I have some examples. We'll get to that with the video. So it's soccer specific running, really just running on your toes, up on the balls of your feet, leaning forward with your chest, good arm movement, but really focused on running like a soccer player and really educating your players to run like a soccer player from the beginning. Then we get into soccer specific stretching. And so after you've warmed the body up a little bit with the soccer movement, we want to get into the way we need to stretch. As a lot of us probably grew up, static stretching, holding for 10 seconds or counting to 20 seconds was the methods back in the day. Well, through modern medicine, technology, science, all these studies that have taken place over the years, it actually hinders our players' performance. It actually, when you have static stretching, you could cause injury to these players. So what we want to do is make sure we focus on stretches no longer than 2 to 3 seconds. We want our stretches to be dynamic and in movement. You can revisit the stretch over and over again, but you never want to hold it longer than 2 to 3 seconds. The other key to our soccer stretching is that there's mobility with stability. So we want to get a full body stretch. We want to get a full body workout. They're actually working their bodies out in this stretching. And to do that, you want to you want to consistently remind them to find their balance. So the movement and balance, or I always like to say mobility, stability. So you really are focusing on your balance. And I'll show some examples as we move forward. Okay, so then once you've gone through the running, the stretching, now we want to start to prepare, build up towards the demands of trainings and games. So we have examples here as marching and skip marching and quick steps. So everything you're doing first happens to be within your own space. So everything is in a stationary position. Once you've started to build up in the stationary position, then you can start to focus on linearly going forward. And once you build up a little bit, moving the players in a forward position, then we start to think about going laterally, side to side. And once you've warmed them up and gotten them to move side to side, now you start to think of multi-directional, going forward, going backwards, diagonally, and sorts. So I'll show some examples as we move forward there. Hope I'm not moving too fast. Just if you have a question, feel free to chime in. Okay, so now once we've gone through the warm-up, that's pretty much our warm-up, the running, the stretching, the dynamic movement prep. Now you're ready to go at 100%. And ways to strengthen our bodies, ways to help us get faster, help us to become more coordinated, things to add in your training sessions to help build strength are things like agility ladders, plyometrics, and core strengthening. Okay, so the coordination in the agility ladders, the coordination in the plyometrics, those are things that you can build speed off of if you do it correctly, but then also to apply the same methodology of our stretching, what's best for them to get a full body workout and help them train to a point where their bodies are can handle the demands of the game. We start to add balance as well within the ladders, within the plyos. So from here, I'm going to try to show you some examples. So I'm going to switch my share to another field, which would be here. Okay, so during the COVID, I spent I don't know, 15, 16 weeks running fitness sessions for all the elite level players. And so here I have some examples of what I was doing in the backyard, but this is something that can also happen in your practices. You can set up 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards, 20 yards max in distance, but everything can be in a small space. And to start here, we start with some soccer running. So we're just jogging and, focused on, again, the details, arms bent properly, running on our toes. And then I'm going to move this on so it's a little faster so we can see more. And I think what I'm going to do, in fact, is mute it. So I'll just talk over myself here. So soccer running, knees up, heels up, skipping with the arms. It's really important that we warm our arms up and our shoulders up. A lot of injuries occur from not preparing your upper body as much as your lower body. And then, just trying to do different kinds of movements, reaching to the ground, more skipping, and just different soccer specific movements that the players will be executing in their trainings and in their games. Here you can see now I'm just getting them to running forwards and backwards, more soccer running, some more skipping forward and backwards, some side shuffling forward and backwards diagonally. So as you can see in the presentation, there's a lot of different movements, and here I'm showing them. Some 360s, just soccer specific movement. Again, this is all at a jog, and it's one of those things that you want to remind them never to warm up at a sprint. Some side shuffle, jumping jacks, again, warming up the shoulders as well. Always on the balls of our feet. Feet are never touching. Some karaoke. And this is the marching. So now I get into the dynamic movement prep. So in this situation, for the sake of what I was doing and to keep the girls moving, I went into the dynamic movement prep. So you could sometimes mix it up, but ideally you go in soccer running into the soccer stretching and then into the dynamic movement prep, which is there. As you can see, I'm stationary in a skip march, and then I'm going linearly, going forward in a skip march, and then I'm going laterally in a skip march. Again, these are just soccer movements that they will execute in their trainings and games. Here now I start to incorporate some of the balance, quick steps into balance. First I was doing it stationary. Now I'm going linearly, then I was going laterally. So here again, we're just trying to build them up, get them prepared to be explosive. They're going to be doing a lot of jumping. They're going to do a lot of change of direction and training their balance. Well, it gives them a full body workout. So from everywhere from their toes to their shoulders, or you're getting a full body workout. So here's the soccer stretching, the movement and the balance. I'll try to go normal speed here. You can just see I have the movement stationary, but you can do it walking forward. You can jog, stop, and do it. But what's key is you can see is I have movement, mobility with the stability, really concentrating on holding a pose and finding my balance. That's going to prepare the players the best. Okay, I'm going to move back up to the speed. All right, so again, now here's the flamingo, all soccer specific. Here's the tabletop. And what you'll see is you're getting a stretch in your entire body. Linear lunges, lateral lunges. And these are reverse lunge twists. Okay, so then I'll move on to So here's some of the more dynamic movement prep. Is that working there? I'll just press play. All right. So here's, I'm going to try to go back to normal speed. So now I'm doing some interval training with them, but squats, what's really key is educating the knees behind the toes. Can you see my cursor?
Yep.
Yep. So it's all about alignment and posture. And when we start to get into the plyometric work, like squat jumps here, we're focusing on quality of our landing just as much as the quality of taking off. So feet, you could see my feet actually, I need to work on a little bit. Your feet should be parallel. And mine, you can see that I have an open foot a little bit, but you want to make sure your feet are parallel. And you want to make sure that when you're landing, your knees land behind your toes, not collapsed in, not collapsed out. That's where a lot of injuries occur. So that was squat jump turn. So again, I start stationary with some squat jumps, then I get into some squat jump turns, and then we could start to go squat jump linearly. We could start to go squat jump laterally. So I'm focusing here on the quality of how I squat down low, load it up, and that I accelerate as high as I can, trying to get as high as I can by using my 100% force. Okay, so here's another example of our skaters. So here's just some more plyometric work. Not to bore everybody with my workout here. So here we just do skater. So some lateral jumps, basically, where I'm having movement and then finding balance. Movement and then balance. So I brought a ball out to kind of show them where, you could see some players jump like just right next to the ball. But here I'm asking like really fake, like they're making a lunge or a feint move where then they find their balance, and then can they be explosive the other way, bending at your knees, bending at your waist, getting your shoulder to the ground. And then this is, I call it 1, 2, 3s. So you have the movement laterally, and then you find the balance. And again, I have my knee. You see a lot of times when I'm marching or squats, we want our knees to come up high so that we engage our hamstrings and our glutes, because that's where a lot of your speed comes from, and you build speed by activating those hamstrings and glute muscles. All right, so that just gives you an example of some more plyometric work here now. Let's see. Here, then I start to get into some fitness or some more plyometric work. 21. There, I did some interval training to kind of get their heart rates moving there, but here's just quick steps, moving your feet. And then I start to incorporate squats with it. So movement with a squat, same sort of dynamic movement prep into some plyometric work. So here there's just movement with squat. So I always do like fast steps. I call them quick steps. Sometimes I do bounce. So quick steps are when one foot toe hits the ground, the other one comes up. It comes up right away. So you're just moving as fast as you can. Or you can do bounce where you're just both toes are coming off the ground at the same time. So here are just some stationary quick step squats. And then I think I even get into some quick steps linear. So then I move forward and then into a squat. So here's just other ways to strengthen. This is strength training basically, and injury prevention training. Now you go laterally. So again, stationary, linear, lateral. All right. So then there's some functional fitness. These are just things. So, everything that I've been showing is really more for older players. But doing functional fitness where there's different movements, like here I'm starting on this cone here, and maybe I'm running forward, side shuffling, backpedaling. So doing multiple different kinds of movements are just great ways to prepare them, and different soccer movements that are repetitious, things they're going to be executing in the game or training. We want to replicate the game as much as possible. So then I'd add some cariokas to it. Yeah, I'm talking about changing balance. So small steps as you change direction, change your balance, change your speed. So that is that one. And I think I have some other examples here. Run forward, diagonal shuffle, forward, diagonal shuffle. So just, you can do a lot of that in a little 5x5 yard space, or 3x3 yard space for that matter. So just some examples there for you. And then I always try to end training, or sometimes it's in the middle of training, some core strengthening. So here, so working on movement and then balance with some squats and then some acceleration training. And then, yeah, the core strengthening. So everything moves through our core. So this, obviously the stronger you can make your core, better it is for them. They'll be stronger, faster, fitter. They will also, it's injury preventative. So I have push-ups, crunches, and planks. Give them 3 to 4 rounds of it. Here's a plank. So that is one example. If you get to, how's our time, Ricardo? Should I show more examples, or?
We can show a few more examples. I mean, one of the questions that I have too, just kind of looking at the group that's on here, is, what sort of warm-up recommendations would you have for a rec plus coach who has less time than the premier and elite coaches? How would you kind of tailor this or restructure it for the rec plus coach?
Right. So let's zoom pages. Here, can you see this on pages? It says soccer running. Hello?
Yeah,
Anybody?
that looks good. You can see it.
Okay, so soccer running, soccer stretching, okay, are all great. Doing some jumping is great. Ladder work is really integral for the youngers, for their motor skills, and for players that are just starting out. We want them to run like soccer players and move like soccer players. So some of that forward side, different dynamic movement running that is soccer related, like I was showing, are all great. Not getting into the plyometrics where they're jumping a lot, but you can do a little bit, landing on 2 feet, landing on 1 foot. Core strengthening isn't so key until you get a little bit older, middle school, high school. So you don't need to do core strengthening. Your focus should be more fitness with the ball, focusing on running, soccer running in particular, how to jog properly, how to move with your knees up, heel kickers, skipping with arms up, skipping arms cross, karaoke, jogging forward, jogging backward, 360-degree turns, bear crawls, cartwheels, side shuffling, all of these that you really want to focus for the ones that are starting out. We want them to run like soccer. If they can move like soccer players, then you could start to build off of that. It's soccer stretching for 10-year-olds isn't integral, but it's great for, if you can get them to focus on getting their balance within it. It's good movement for them, good movement prep to get them ready. But you want to focus on the quality of time you have with your players, especially at that age. So you don't want to spend too much time without the ball. You want to usually have the ball. So you have to get creative in how you're going to do that. Using the ball, you can be bouncing the ball. You can be, jumping over the ball, dribbling, obviously the ball. And then ladder work, just really getting them to move their feet quickly through a ladder, coordinated, is really important for them too.
And
I have
for the
some
ladder,
fitness with the
Chris,
ball competitions
you
here,
don't-
like toe taps, forward soul drag, toe taps, backward soul drag. So bells, different, you can start to do things like that and include some running in it as well. So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, so Chris,
no,
this is David. So like, for example, we coach, the Premier girls once or twice a week. So how many minutes of my 90 minutes would you say should go to that kind of stuff? Because right now we've been doing it maybe 10 to 15, some version of stretching and running and warming up, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's a good amount. I like to try to incorporate relay races out of it so that you're getting more, you warm them up without a relay race, but they're in lines ready to go. And then you create races out of it. So you can start to create technical work with the ball as well. So I think that's 10 to 15 minutes is definitely good, because you really want them to have repetition and consistency in running properly and moving properly and starting to, you want them to obviously fit the part and look like soccer players. So they have to be able to run properly first.
Yep.
Good technique. And what you just start to build off of that. I would include the soccer running, and I would include some ladder work. And since we're in COVID, you just have them put 4 or 5 cones down, or 4 or 5 rocks, or shin guards, or water bottles, or whatever. But you start to just have them really work on getting quick feet in there. So that's my suggestion. Is really just, you definitely need to include the ball, but including soccer running and ladders would be my focus for those kind of players.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so I just kind of, recommended here, educate, your players to have good habits at home by doing extra, depending on the age group you're working with. Again, my presentation was more geared towards older players. However, it never hurts to remind the younger players, even though they don't go shopping, what's good to eat, especially the days right out leading up to training, or before games. But what you can do is also make sure you're preparing your sessions ahead of time and coming with a good plan, arriving early for setup. And then again, being good with the repetition of teaching how to run properly, how to stretch properly, how to move properly, encouraging the balance work within all their movement. And then, I think it's really important to use your directors for feedback and also support, and other coaches as well. It's great when we can all exchange ideas and share ideas and talk about it so that we can continue to improve.
Perfect. Any other questions? That was great, Dave. I know you had a good one. Anybody else have any other questions there? All right, perfect. So I'm going to again record this, and we'll get this out online too on YouTube. We're still working on the social media aspect of that, but please stay tuned. If you weren't able to catch all of it, we'll make sure that we get it up on there. I'm going to do a shameless plug now. Also, we just created a TikTok account as we're trying to beef up our social media presence. I see Michelle. You know, hopefully we can get some of your videos up on there too, right? But shameless plug, if you can follow Mustang Soccer, we do have a TikTok account now, and we will be building out content with actually the help of some of our players. So we're actually going to pull together a kind of a steering committee with players involved to help us build out a social media presence specifically on TikTok. So that's my shameless plug. I'm going to turn it over now to Fred, who's going to give us kind of an update on status.